Hi, I'm Paloma, and with Sofia, Emilio, Denise, Pamir, and Bibi, we tested the correlation between age of a person in need and empathy levels. So, to begin with, our hypothesis was that the age of a homeless individual will alter empathy levels in a person. More specifically, that a child will increase empathy levels in a participant, whereas an adult and the control group will be the same. So to start, what is empathy? According to Bianca Bricco of St. Paul University, empathy is not simply an emotion, but an intersubjective skill of assessing the world of others and sensing our human interconnectedness. It's about sharing our emotions with others and also to mirror their mental state. This means that we take the cognitive perspective of the other people, which helps us understand their experiences. Now onto photography. We chose photography as a way to measure empathy levels because photography is an incredibly powerful tool regarding to inspiring empathy in people. In order for an image to achieve an emotionally moving effect, it must expose social injustice with a very heavy ontological burden of physical evidence. This invites spectators to witness human suffering. And regarding this, it helps increase their empathy levels due to emotional contagion. And lastly, homelessness. We chose the age of a homelessness, whether it be older people or younger people. So to start, homelessness is a very big problem in Europe, and it's primarily tied to unemployment and poverty, also migration, health problems, relationship breakdowns, inadequate support or social care. And in the past 10 years, homelessness in the European Union countries have risen dramatically with a 70% increase in the size of the homeless population. Its studies have revealed that at least 700,000 people are homeless any given night. Cities that are the highest regarding homelessness are cities such as London, Paris, Brussels, Dublin, Vienna, and Athens. We thought that this was a very important topic, given that we all live in Europe, and measuring the age of what inspires more empathy could help us in the future.
So now let's talk a bit about the design of our experiment. In order to deepen our analysis of our research topic, we decided to utilize a 2x2 factorial design. We also utilized a single blind design in which only the participants did not know which conditions they were assigned to. Of course, we included a verbal informed consent in the form of a WhatsApp message as well as a post hoc debrief. We also kept our participants' identities completely anonymous. Now, looking at our sample, we had a total of 75 student participants dispersed across different majors here at IE. We assumed that the mean age of our participants was between the interval 18 and 21. As you can see here, these were the conditions or levels of our factorial design. Again, we intended to measure empathy and therefore our form of measurement included 20 qualitative ordinal questions as well as one open-ended question. We also ensured random assignment to different forms through a computer-based random number generator. And also we had to keep race and gender of the people in these treatment conditions in the pictures constant, even though the gender of the homeless child is not very clear.
So now that we've discussed the design of our project, I'm going to go into the reasons why we chose this topic. So first of all, we wanted to include some kind of emotion in our explorations. We wanted to see if we could include some kind of research based on emotion. So we chose empathy as it goes hand in hand with understanding the struggles that homeless people have. Us humans have empathy towards this, or tend to have empathy towards this, so we wanted to explore the reasons, we wanted to explore this emotion. As well as, since COVID, homeless people have gone up in numbers, and it's a current issue that has stemmed from the start of COVID. So we wanted to address an issue that was recent. We also wanted to create awareness to fellow IE students that this is a prevalent issue. As we noticed here in Segovia, it wasn't as much as an issue as places like Madrid or, for example, in Luxembourg, where I come from. It's a very prevalent issue. However, here in Segovia, not as much. So we wanted to create awareness. And since since this is a multicultural topic which involves all cultures and everyone has had some sort of encounter with homeless people in their lives, we thought that it would be extremely accessible for us to discuss a topic like homeless people and the empathy that people have towards this current issue.
So the steps we took to realize this study are the following. First, we took a random sample of different WhatsApp groups composed by IE Segovia students. We sent them an initial survey to get their approval to participate in our study. After they accepted, step 2, we used computer simulation to assign them to different conditions. There were 15 people per form. Once we got the raw results, step 3 was calculate the averages of the answers we got, and we used a scale of 1 to 5 to calculate these answers. After that, step 4, we used SPSS and Excel to plot and analyze the results. Finally, step 5, we reported our results and informed the participants about our study.
What we did once we got the results from the survey was calculating the empathy levels for every participant and then making an average of all the results of each survey. And as you can see in both cases, in the control group, where there is no picture at all, the empathy levels are quite low compared to the surveys with the pictures. In fact, there is a really big difference between the surveys with the photos. Once we calculated the averages, we discovered that the participants who did the survey with the picture of a young person had higher scores in the empathy levels than the ones who did the survey with a picture of an old person.
Finally, it's time to analyze our results. With the help of the factorial ANOVA function in SPSS, we were able to compute such plots and p-values. Simply looking at this graph, we can see that treatment automatically affects empathy levels when compared with the control group. Moreover, the main effect of age is present in this graph, as empathy levels towards an older person is almost the same and indifferent whether the person is homeless or not. Based on the statistical analysis represented in the table, we can conclude that there's a main effect of age on empathy, as the p-value is smaller than 0.001, which tells that we can reject the commonly accepted null hypothesis that there is no relationship between the variables and say that there is in fact a relationship between the variables. However, we can safely say that there's no main effect of homelessness on empathy levels given the high p-value, and that there's no interaction between age and treatment. Lastly, here are two other plots that helps us visualize this data.
In addition to the results that we have already explained, we also wanted to mention how we asked the participants a preliminary question in the questionnaire. So at the beginning of the questionnaire, we had one question. For this one specifically, it said, state 3 words to describe a homeless person. The question was placed right below the photo, so in condition 1, the child, condition 2, the adult, and in condition 3, the control group, no photo at all. We wanted to see how just simply placing a photo above the question would influence the type of vocabulary that they used to describe them. It was very interesting to see, as there was such a difference in the vocabulary used. You can see here how for the child that it's a lot more sympathetic language, such as sadness, pain, hopelessness, isolation, whereas for the man it's a lot more blaming. There's words such as dirty, poor, scary, intimidating. So we can see how even the placement of this photo really controlled how the participants saw homeless people as a whole, and possibly influenced how their empathy levels. Additionally, you can see the control group is very similar to the condition 2 with the old man. This concurs with our hypothesis, as we can see how individuals would actually generally see homeless people in their minds. Onto the second part of our experiment, we asked a very similar question. As mentioned before, we wanted to see whether it was homeless people affecting the empathy levels or whether it's simply just age. So here we asked the question, what 3 words do you associate with a normal person? And we added these 2 photos. So you can see there's one with an adult and one with a child. And it surprisingly came up with very similar results in terms of having different vocabulary for each condition. So for the adult, mature, professional, strong, responsible, whereas for the child, happy, smiling, school, games. So there were very different interpretations there. However, it is important to note that the control group did not concur with what we hypothesized for the earlier question. So it's interesting to see how it doesn't concur with any condition, and then it's very different in itself. So this could disprove that age has an effect on empathy levels.
Continuing on to the discussion, there were 4 main limitations that we identified that could have affected our data and that we could improve in the future to get more significant and non-altered results. These were the sample size, the self-report data, demand characteristics, and difficulty in establishing a cause and effect relationship. So the sample size, of course, was a lot smaller than existing data on empathy levels. And as empathy is a very intricate topic, we feel that we need more data to suggest any conclusions in this area. Self-report data is a very ambiguous sort of research, as individuals' knowledge on themselves is scarce, and we never know if we're getting the full story. Demand characteristics, this means that participants' behavior may alter due to unfamiliar conditions. So in the condition of the survey, this could be not a real representation of how they feel about homeless people or their empathy levels as a person, as it is unfamiliar to them. And cause effect, with this type of research in a survey, it is very difficult to establish a cause-effect relationship, as there are many external factors that could have been affecting the results and the participants' answers. Here we discuss the potential improvements that could be made. All of them are along the same lines of increasing the sample size and increasing the amount of experimental techniques that we use. So, of course, sample size, gather more participants, self-report data, apply this research to other experimental design techniques. With other experimental design techniques, then we can get a larger scope on whether the type of research is affecting their answers or whether this is actually a real representation of their empathy levels. Demand characteristics, again, through further research, we can limit demand characteristics having a large effect on the results. For example, a conversation with friends, maybe a covert observation of this conversation, we could get a more accurate representation and a more natural answer to all of our questions regarding this very personal topic that is empathy. And finally, cause and effect. A meta-analysis is definitely needed to establish a more clear correlation. This could be through more experimental research or even through literature research. So yeah.
And here are our reference list and appendix. And we would like to conclude with a quote from Alfred Adler, that empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. And at this moment, our world needs more of it. Thank you.